Hi everyone, welcome to the second episode of World of Warcraft Versus, where I'll be analyzing the strengths and weaknesses of characters from the Warcraft lore to decide who would win in a fight of death. English is not my native language, do not hesitate to correct any mistake I might make in the comments. This episode will be dedicated to a duel between Grommash Hellscream and his son, Garrosh Hellscream, the two chieftains of the Warsong Clan who, depending on the timeline, were both warchiefs of their respective hordes and major figures in the history of the orcs, both for good and for bad. Both are amazing warriors, wielding the second most famous weapon of the horde, the two-handed axe, Gohal. The father is more of a fan favorite than the son, who's more of a fan hated, but both have transformed the entire story of Warcraft, right up until the glorious cinematic trailer of the Warlords of Draenor expansion. And looking back, it would be really hard to place them on a sliding scale of good to evil, given the ambiguity and magnitude of their actions. Note that we will be talking about the Grommash Hellscream from the original timeline, the one who drank the blood of Manoroth, and the actual father of Garrosh, not the warchief for the Iron Horde. Both characters will be used in their prime, which, for Garrosh, is during a stand against the Alliance and the Horde Rebellion during the Siege of Orgrimmar, and for Grommash during his warring days from the Third War, when he was offered a rekindling of the demonic pact by Manoroth.
The drums of war thunder once again.
Grommash Hellscream, often shortened Grom, was an adult orc male born in Grand, decades before the First War, on the world of Draenor, in the midst of a Warsong Clan. The son of Grommash Hellscream, a notorious Grom killer, little is known about Grommash's childhood, and the earliest knowledge we have about his life comes from his eventual ascension to the rank of chieftain of his clan after the death of a previous chieftain that Grommash might have murdered to take his place. As the leader of the Warsong Clan on Draenor, Grom set out on a bloody rampage of conquest through the ogre lands of the Gorian Empire. He was initially successful, but the ogres retaliated on Iran, had captured Grom after killing many of his warriors, including his mate Golka, who had recently given birth to a son, Garrosh. Grommash was starved and tortured to the brink of death, but he eventually managed to kill his captor and escape, reforming his clan and leading them to victory against the ogres, gaining a legendary reputation among all orcs for his iron will. Grom was a significant figure of the orcs' fall to demonic corruption, since he was first to be called by Gul'dan to be offered to drink the blood of Manoroth, surrendering his soul to the Burning Legion and choosing inner rage in exchange for power. The other orcish clans followed his example, and became a horde of enraged green-skinned warriors unleashed through the dark portal upon the world of Azeroth in what was to be called the First War. At this time, Grommash's son Garrosh had been affected by the Red Pox, becoming one of the Magari, and was one of the rare orcs to never drink the blood, incurring his father's contempt and abandon. Grommash would never see his son again. To his frustration, the Orc chieftain was refused the crossing of Dark Portal by the Shadow Council, who wanted to avoid tensions between war leaders vying for power by sending only half of the horde under the command of a single war chief. The corrupted Warsong Clan remained in Draenor until the return of the horde after the Second War, fleeing for their defeat against the Alliance. The Shaman Ner'zhul rallied the remaining clans, including the Warsong, in an expedition of raids against Azeroth to gather artifacts of power that will allow him to fulfill his ambition of universal conquest. When the Horde returned to the portal with the artifacts, Grom and his clan remained to defend the Azerothian side of a dimensional breach that was routed by the Alliance forces and trapped in Azeroth after Archmage Khadgar closed the portal on the other side. The Warsong clan remained stuck there for nearly 20 years. Though the orcs of the clan were free from the eternal camps, A large number of them were affected by the lethargy that caused the race after being abandoned by the demons. Grommash Hellscream's unwavering will allowed him to protect his people from destruction, but he was bitterly struck by his own mistake in accepting Gul'dan's offer, realizing the bloodthirsty way of the Horde was what had led him and the Warsong to their pitiful state. Grom saw no hope of recovering, descending further and further into depression and regret, until the young orc Thrall, freshly escaped from the human's grasp, came to him in search of his own lost clan. Grom befriended the young warrior, inspired by the spirit of freedom he showed and his refusal to become as cruel as the humans had been to him. And when said warrior returned at the side of a legendary Orgrim Doomhammer to lead a new horde that would free their brethren from the camps, Grom warmly welcomed the leadership of a new war chief, the two eventually becoming so close they considered themselves brothers. Grommash loyally followed his prophet when Thrall led the horde across the Great Sea to seek their new life in Kalimdor, but Warsong chieftain's suppressed anger struck out when he disobeyed orders to attack humans Thrall had commanded him to avoid. In a form of punishment, Grom was sent to the ungrateful task of gathering lumber from the forest of Ashenvale to construct the new capital of Orgrimmar, but he was confronted by the forces of the Night Elves defending the woods. The Warsong Clan held its own, but when the demigod Cenarius entered the fray, Grom was left with the only one terrible option: making the same mistake he had in the past in drinking the blood of the Peak Lord Manoroth to become a fell orc and gain power at the cost of his soul. Enraged and empowered, Grommash slayed Cenarius, then served Manoroth by turning on the allied forces of orcs and humans. A pissed-off Thrall defeated him and lifted the curse, leaving Grom buried in shame for doing the same mistake twice. The two warriors eventually confronted Manoroth on their own, and after a short fight, Grom finally had his redemption by sacrificing himself to kill the demon and free his entire kind, as he died in peace in Thrall's arms. Garrosh Hellscream was an adult orc male born in Nagrand a short time before the First War on the world of Drano in the midst of a Warsong Clan. His father Grommash was the first to drink the cursed blood of Manoroth, taking the whole race with him, but at that time Garrosh was one of those afflicted by the rat pox and ostracized from the other clans, ending up being one of the uncorrupted Magari, and eventually becoming the de facto leader. Although he had great potential as a leader, Garrosh, the name Garrosh happening to mean warrior's heart or anguish's heart, grew in the shadow of his father's fault and hated himself for a long time, before meeting with War Chief Thrall after the reopening of a dark portal. Thrall told Garrosh the story of Grom, explaining how he had eventually achieved redemption for himself and his people, and this revelation invigorated Garrosh, who finally let his potential as a leader and warrior run free. The Magar followed Thrall to become his advisor into Orgrimmar, and became a strong advocate of a war against the Alliance and an aggressive policy to reclaim anything the Horde could need. Despite sharing a surrogate father-son bond, Thrall and Garrosh often clashed, and when the war chief expressed his intention not to go into Northrend to fight the forces of the Scourge, Garrosh lashed out, declaring a Magora he was starting to win before a massive attack of frost winds upon Orgrimmar interrupted the fight. The attack settled the Orcs' argument, and Thrall agreed to send Garrosh into Northrend to lead the Warsong offensive against the Lich King. Garrosh proved a ruthless and dreadfully effective commander, becoming a war hero acclaimed by many young Orcs, but his frequent attacks against the Alliance and refusal to unite the forces against the common enemy kept worrying the Elders as he entertained his warmongering tendencies. When the Horde returned victorious, many Horde leaders were distrustful of Garrosh, and with the advent of a cataclysm, the seed of discord was sown into the Horde when Thrall bestowed Gorehowl upon Garrosh, and chose to name the young Hellscream as the new war chief in his stead, as he had to leave to find a way to heal the world. The clash became violent between him and the Droran chieftain, Ked Bloodhoof, and the two eventually settled their differences in Magora, where Garrosh killed Cairn with an unknowingly poisoned weapon. Garrosh's rule was marked by war. The Warsong orc shaved his head and got his body covered in ritualistic tattoos like his father, looking even more aggressive than before, and set out in a total war against the Alliance, even with the threat of Deathwing at hand. Despite these conditions, the cataclysm was halted, but Garrosh had sowed conflict and bloodshed in all of Azeroth, and recruited not only the violent Dragon Maw clan into the Horde, but also any of the Blackrock orcs from the Dark Horde who would pledge fealty to him. Ruling with Malkorok, chieftain of the Blackrock clan, at his side, Garrosh made enemies with all the other Horde leaders, who grew to despise and resent him. Things went one step further when he declared his intention to completely genocide the Alliance and unleashed a super weapon against the city of Furthermore, annihilating it along with all its citizens. The war continued in the new land of Pandaria, where Garrosh attempted to have Vol'jin, his main enemy within the Horde, assassinated. As the conflict escalated, a large portion of the Horde turned on Garrosh, who eventually rejected all other than the orcs loyal to him from his true Horde, and brought the power of a heart of the old god Yasharaj to Grommash to augment his power, expecting to cleave through all his enemies at once when they would come for him there. Even this wasn't enough, as the Alliance and the Horde Rebellion laid siege to the Orcish capital, destroyed Garrosh's followers and seized him, all leaders agreeing to make him stand trial in Pandaria for his war crimes. Something most unexpected happened. The renegade dragon, Kairos Dormu from the Bronze Dragon Flight, tasked with the protection of the Timeways, attacked the trial with his own forces along with the Dragon Maw clan, and rescued Garrosh to make him escape into the past of a parallel reality on another Draenor. There, Kairos Dormu intended to manipulate the orcs and gather an infinite army, but Garrosh refused to see anyone rule over his race and killed the dragon by surprise. Having lost all he had built, Garrosh found the alternate version of his father, Grommash, and revealed the future to him, warning him about Gul'dan's ploy and giving the Warsong Clan future goblin technology. Using this knowledge, the two Hellscream subdued the Shadow Council and forged a technologically advanced Iron Horde to unleash upon the present Azeroth, thus becoming the instrument of Garrosh's revenge. While Grommash became the war chief of the Iron Horde, he gave leadership of the alternate Warsong Clan to Garrosh, who ruled over underground in his Grommash fortress. There, he was confronted by a vengeful thrall, determined to fix his grave mistake and end their unfinished business. The two orcs settled on the Magora at the throne of the elements, where they had met for the first time, and in a furious duel, Thrall eventually unleashed the power of thunder upon Garrosh, killing him after stating he had chosen his own destiny. Grommash and Garrosh are the two tenants of a cursed family, cursed to repeat mistakes and be consumed by a rage that will only drive them to failure and regret, while being two very different persons. The both of them have accomplished monstrous horrors and heroic deeds, making them, especially in Garrosh's case, human characters. They're not Lich Kings, they're not Demon Lords, they're people born in a violent world who struggle through and by the violence during their whole lives. Since Grom's shadow was the one and first thing to shape Garrosh and his psyche and what they ended up to be, confronting them is a very interesting what-if, a moment of reckoning for the both of them, such as was the storyline of Warlords of Draenor. Every aspect of their strengths and weaknesses will now be analyzed, so that we can better imagine who would win a fight of death, something that could have likely happened if they had ever met again, given their volatile natures.
My child, I watched with pride as you grew into a weapon of righteousness.
When he drank the blood of Manoroth for the second time, Grommash Hellscream was a 47-year-old orc warrior, with amazing strength, speed and endurance. There have been conflicting descriptions of Grommash's physique. He was first described as lean, agile and built for speed, and for hard and fast strikes, unlike the bulkier body of his son Garrosh. However, Grommash has been described and portrayed as a beefy, muscular warrior in recent years, most of all in his depiction from Warlords of Draenor. His abilities being the same in both cases, we must consider him to be as fast as he is strong, with an extreme resistance to pain and damage that allows him to plunge headfirst into battle with an unprotected torso. In Warcraft 3, Grommash is depicted as Blade Master, indicating his extreme swiftness on the battlefield, and he has been shown to possess enough raw strength to kill a pit lord in a single blow, even in his uncorrupted state. His first taste of Manroth's blood gave him a green, corrupted body, augmenting his strength in conjunction with his rage, but the second time he drank saw him transformed into a red-skinned chaos warrior with even more power and strength, able to cleave effortlessly into the forces of a night elf and kill a demigod. Such power, of course, came to the price of Grom's sanity. During the siege of Orgrimmar, Garrosh was an adult Magari orc warrior who had spent his entire life fighting and possessed the strength to wield Gorehell. Very bulky and muscular, Garrosh fights to crush his enemies with both his weapon and his fists, and often demonstrate impressive unarmed strength, as well as a surprising agility and dexterity once set into combat, sufficient to defeat Taranzu, the Hand of Apendashan, in a clash of fists in the Vale of Eternal Blossoms, and prove himself superior to Thrall in conventional combat. At the time of the siege, Garrosh had seized and consumed the heart of Yashraj, the old god whose remains were buried beneath Pandaria, around which was unleashed the power of the Shah of Pride. His dark power boosted all of Garrosh's attributes while plunging into his emotions. Given the size of his ego and his strong insecurity, that represents quite a power boost, and at the end of the siege, Garrosh had taken all the remaining power of Yashraj into his own body, transforming it into a hulking monstrosity, and gifting the orc with enough strength to fight an army by himself. Both the father and the son have a strong, swift physique, with exceptional raw strength, able to hold its own against the greatest combatants of their time and ungodly entities. Both eventually had access to a dark and burning transformation, who boosted them to the point of making them monsters of war. However, differences can be found. Grom focuses far more on his speed, while being more than a match for his son in other areas, which will make him superior to Garrosh in their normal states. But once we take the blood of Manoroth and the heart of Yashraj into account, it all changes, where Grom is turned into a very powerful fell orc, a creature close to a demon and still in the realm of mortals. Garrosh momentarily becomes an avatar of an old god's might, an incomprehensible being far more dangerous than almost any demon, and the young Hellscream only owes it to Yashraj being dead to have retained his free will despite the madness excited inside him by the old god's whispers. Physically, what he becomes is far stronger than any fell orc, and thus the physical edge must go to Garrosh Hellscream.
Fight! Kill! Salute!
Grommash Hellscream is a Blade Master, a lightning-fast warrior fighting with very little armor and a long weapon by using his speed to deadly effect, often appearing to be in multiple places at the same time. Blade Masters are actually a very precise class from the Burning Blade clan, unrelated to Grommash, and it raises speculation as to whether or not he really is a Blade Master lore-wise, but his abilities are close enough for him to be described as such. Able to wield twin axes or single two-handed one, he can be considered a mix between a fury warrior and an arms warrior, able to send his troops into a frenzy with his mighty war cry and command them on top of his wolf while charging into the fray. He doesn't take such risks because he is stupid or reckless, he does it because he is strong enough to fight this way and survive. Furthermore, he is able to wield his axe with enough power behind it to cleave through enemies far stronger than himself at the cost of his own safety. All of this is more than enhanced by the amount of demon blood running through his veins, with the downside of making him completely reckless, which led to his defeat against the united forces of Thrall and Jaina Proudmoore. Garrosh started out as a fury warrior during Burning Crusade and Wrath of the Lich King. using twin axes and heavy armor to lead his clan into combat. However, after his ascension to the position of war chief of the horde, he removed his armor and started using Garrosh to combat, showcasing impressive mastery of the weapon. Although he surpassed Thrall in battle, he was shown to have trouble against calm and thinking opponents during his Magora against Ken Bloodhoof. This weakness does not mean Garrosh is not a smart fighter. He's good at improvising with whatever comes into his hands in his current battleground, knows how to effectively hold Garrosh at his enemies and surprise them with a savage unarmed attack. He fights according to who he's facing, adapting to them while often despising them and cruelly crushing them with all the power at his disposal, be it the Heart of Yasharaj, Goblin technology, or his own two fists. Although both Hellscreams are amazing combatants in terms of pure battle technique, their strong resemblance as warriors makes the comparison hinge on one thing: their stats, their strength, speed and durability, and their overall technique. While Garrosh is good at improvising and is no pushover when using Garrosh, Grom's way of fighting is much more specialized and refined around wielding the legendary axe. Furthermore, Grommash is much faster than his son, and the younger Hellscream often needs a favorable environment to defeat his strongest enemies. In terms of technique, the battle capability edge goes to Grommash Hellscream.
Halt, lad. There's an inscription on the dais. It's a warning. It says, "Whomsoever takes up this blade shall wield power eternal. Just as the blade rends flesh, so must power scar the spirit."
Grommash, like most Bloodmasters, wears little to no armor on his chest, with only a shoulder pad strapped to his right shoulder and a heavy armored glove on his main hand. Otherwise, he wears only lightly reinforced pants and metallic boots, leaving him very open but not without protection. He has been seen riding a Warsong Diafang wolf in Warlords of Draenor, but not to combat. The main feature of his equipment is not his armor, however, but his axe, the legendary weapon, Garrosh. Fought 3 generations before Grommash inherited it, his great-grandfather used it to kill 6 legendary Groms, mighty giants of Draenor, and had their hearts sealed into the blade, granting it untold strength. It is notable that Grommash means giant's heart in Orcish. Grom's father, Garrosh, died while piercing a Grom's eye with it as the demigod was eating him alive. The legend says the Grom died before him, and the axe eventually went to Grommash. It can be added that the skull in his handle is believed to be that of a Goron, and the leather is probably made of cleft-hoofed hide. When the user swings Garrosh's blade, the air sees through little holes in it, producing a singing sound that gave its name to the blade. Given how and why it was created, Garrosh is a weapon of amazing cutting power, capable of killing gods and giants in a single mighty blow, a feat Grommash achieved on multiple occasions. An item of legend in the Horde, Garrosh was eventually passed on to Grommash's son, Garrosh, years after his death. Garrosh's equipment evolved with basically each World of Warcraft expansion he was into, offering a great variety. Starting with twin Warsong axes when he was leading the Magar, Garrosh used to be adorned in a strong Orcish armor from Draenor, before being equipped with a new red battle armor as a uniform during the Warsong offensive in Northrend. Since Cataclysm, Garrosh started going shirtless like his father, after shaving his skull and having his body tattooed. He wore heavy metallic boots and a massive belt, along with strong leather pants, and adorned himself by using the end of one of his tusk as shoulder pads, as well as a large shield from unknown origin. He has also been seen riding Malak, his female wolf mount, but not into battle. The equipment we will take into consideration is what he was using at the end of Mists of Pandaria, after discarding his father's axe Garrosh in favor of Salato, a desecrated image of it, and fought for himself with the power of Yasharaj. Despite this insult to his legacy, it is unlikely Garrosh did this out of spite, as he was extremely proud of what his father was and did. and we can deduce that he did it because it further augmented his power. We can thus conceive Xalato as being at least as powerful as the legendary Gorehowl, the ground killer weapon capable of killing half gods in one strike, with the probably added feature of inflicting heavy shadow damage and infecting his opponents with a corrupting organic matter oozing from Yasharaj's heart. We can simply state that he traded his heritage for power. With basically the same armor and the same weapon, with the added shoulder pads for Garrosh and a weapon that was forged specifically to be superior to Gorehowl, it seems quite clear to me that a slight advantage goes into the younger Hellscream favor, especially if you consider his much bigger emphasis of the use of efficient war technology. The equipment edge goes to Garrosh Hellscream.
All my life I have lived by the sword. I've seen kingdoms burn, and watched brave heroes die in vain.
The earliest reports about Grommash's life depicted him as already being the leader of the Warsong Clan, and he has been its battle commander for almost the entirety of his life. A first impression could be that Grom's tactics were reckless, far too aggressive and arrogant, and while the Warsong chieftain's pride played no small part in the way he thinks his battle, he is anything but stupid. Able to wage an ending war against the entire Gordian Empire, Grommash demonstrates an impressive cunning, allowing him to rise up through any downfall, such as when he managed to kill his ogre rival while being tortured. His will allows him to always look for the way to victory, even when all seems lost, but also to recognize when he is defeated and when he has made a mistake, even if he usually realizes it only afterwards. It is not only the demon blood but also his cunning that allowed him to slay scenarios in his own home ground, and in each version of his killing of Manoroth, his strike was carefully calculated to smash through the Pit Lord's defenses and hit the weak parts. With over 30 years of honing his warcraft, Grommash Hellscream is one of the most experienced warriors of Azeroth and Draenor. Garrosh had a hard, war-filled life. Even when he lived among the Magar, he had to help his people survive in the dangers of Outland, from demons to ogres to fair horse to illiderary forces, and that had to affect what he learned. In Northrend, he proved he already had enough tactical talent to measure up to the armies of the Lich King while fighting the Alliance in the dangers of Northrend whenever needed. A feat that played no small part in making him a hero to the Horde and having Troll designate him as acting war chief. As the leader of the Horde, Garrosh managed to inflict defeat upon defeat to the Alliance, invading Gilneas, progressing through Ashen Vale and destroying Firamore. His main mistake was his inability to be humble and listen to his lies, and even then, his army proved to be a match for the two united factions. Even as he was questing for power and total dominance over Azeroth, there were limits to Garrosh's methods. He never condoned the use of any demonic magic, completely outlawing warlocks in Orgrimmar, and despite making pacts with dark powers such as the Dark Shamans of the Galaxies, he was one of the rare villains of the World of Warcraft to refuse ever being dominated by them. His use of technology and his habit of preparing his battleground beforehand are also a huge asset, and in the end, he could be a perfect strategist if not for his constant refusal to listen, his xenophobia, and his obsession with power, as he tries to compensate his failing ego to match up to the image he has of his father. While Garrosh is far from lacking in experience and perhaps a more able war leader in the Horde than his father, he still has fought for a far shorter time than his father, and with larger and more diverse resources. Grommash's wars have always seen him riding with only his clan at his side, and unlike Garrosh, he plunged deep into the battlefield every time, although Garrosh also did this on some occasions. Furthermore, Grommash's pride is less obsessive than his son's, making him able to see defeat when it's in front of him, and with a far lesser need to prove himself. For example, Garrosh never wanted to be the war chief, and it's while exercising that kind of power that his megalomania developed. As the war chief of the Iron Horde, the alternate Grommash ended up recognizing he had to fight alongside the Azeroth invaders against the Legion, and did not reignite the conflict afterwards as Garrosh would have. The battle experience edge goes to Grommash Hellscream.
In secret, I began harvesting what energies I could. I had a brief taste of true power.
In his normal state, Grommash Hellscream is a warrior with no actual magical resources to speak of, though it should be mentioned that WoW was blessed with Grom Halls, specifically to become the awesome weapon class. Aside from this enhancement, we can only speak of magical resources for Grommash when considering him as a fell orc. Being imbued with demonic energies greatly increased his physical attributes and his rage, the demon's fury always helping him to keep fighting and destroying. Additionally, this transformation in Warcraft 3 added chaos damage to his attacks, which goes to show that the corrupted Grommash can inflict direct damage of fell energy, which was a determining factor in his victory over Cenarius. In his ordinary state, Garrosh is a straight-up warrior with no magical resources other than exterior help, but since we're tagging him in his prime, we must consider the power he wields with Xalato, the desecrated image of WoW. Not only does the original god-killing power of the legendary axe remain in its old god-forged copy, but the corrupted organic matter from which the weapon is formed whispers dark thoughts and temptation into its wielder's mind, trying to corrupt anyone who wields it. Garrosh wanted his new axe to simply be a stronger version of WoW, in an effort to overcome the shadow of his father, but it can be expected that Xalato would sieve corruption into anything it touches and strikes, since it mentions wishing its wielder would cut slower through the flesh of the enemy, so that the axe can better drink its victim's soul. The desecrated weapon ability Garrosh uses during the siege of Orgrimmar indicates the ability to inflict powerful shadow damage in the area in which the weapon exists, which makes Garrosh extremely dangerous. During the last encounter in the siege of Orgrimmar raid, Garrosh is powered up and protected by the Heart of Yasharaj and Shah emanations, and eventually absorbs all of its power to become a hulking, monstrous avatar of the old god. In this state, he is dangerous enough to be considered more than mortal, and handle an enemy army barehanded while unleashing shadow damage all around him. Simply put, Garrosh relies far more on supernatural power than his father. While Grommash's pact with Manoroth was an attempt at merely getting personally stronger in order to defeat Cenarius and save his clan, what Garrosh wanted from the Heart of Yasharaj was a weapon of mass destruction that could help him crush all of his enemies and conquer all of Azeroth, and he nearly succeeded in doing exactly that. The power of Yasharaj makes him a danger on par with the likes of Illidan Stormrage or Gul'dan, this giving him very large magical resources, despite being a warrior. The magical resources edge goes to Garrosh Hellscream.
Faith is a powerful weapon.
So I'm told. The Alliance has the light from which to draw its strength. What steals this iron horde in its darkest hours?
This bonus round raises a difficult question, leading back to the origins of the Warcraft universe and the Burning Legion. Old gods or creatures brought forth by the attempts of the Void Gods from beyond the physical plane to connect to matter and corrupt it, bring it to their own formlessness, which is why they are so dangerous, prone to induce madness in the victims, and to destroy and distort everything around them. That's also the reason for which they can seldom be understood in the normal stanzas of life and death. Having been ripped apart from the surface of Azeroth by human fool, the leader of the Titanic Pantheon, Yasharaj can be considered deader than the other Azerothian old gods, but its essence and body parts are enough to manifest the Shah and the power Garrosh wields. The Burning Legion, The army of demons who seek to burn all of creation and corrupted the orcs to make them their slaves set out on their burning crusade to obey the command of the Dark Titan Sargeras, the renegade champion of the Pantheon, whose only solution to the Void God's incursions into the physical plane is to destroy everything they could use as a vessel. Everything alive, that is. The original goal of demonic energy is to thwart and destroy beings like Yesh-Raj, by using the chaos of a twisting nether to destroy any flesh that could serve their purposes, and it could be argued that what the fell old Grommash became when he drank the demon blood dealt precisely the kind of damage that can hurt Garrosh's corrupted body. Now, this is only theoretical, and I would not deem it enough to give an edge to Grom if there wasn't also the fact that Xerathos' power largely hinges on its attack to the opponent's mind. The fact that demons, and by extension fell orcs, already are blood-crazed monsters makes them the ideal army to confront the old gods, since they're already far too mad to be affected by such an attack. Grom's already corrupted, so there's nothing left for Yesh-Raj to infect. I give the bonus advantage to Grommash Hellscream.
You Pandaren tried to bury your hate and your anger, but such power cannot be contained. It must be unleashed!
Grom's psychological state is both his biggest weakness and his greatest strength. Able to endure unending torment and physical pain and not give up, snatching comeback victories, he is nicknamed the Warlord with the Iron Will, in memory of him killing his ogre captor with his bare teeth, and rising up again despite the torture and starvation he had gone through. We have another example of this mindset with his fight against Nobundo during the sacking of Shatra city, where the Vindicator smashed Grom's main hand, loosening his grip on Gorhau. The orc's only reaction was to smile and attack again despite the pain. No amount of damage will be able to stop him if he's still breathing. On the other hand, he has trouble controlling his anger and his wish to destroy his enemies, which led him to drink the demon blood twice, something he bitterly regretted both times despite the power he gained, and can be rash, creating unnecessary conflicts. Another side of his psyche is, when he's clear-minded, his complete refusal to be anyone's slave or servant. He doesn't mind following another war leader, but hates the idea of relinquishing his freedom in service of a higher power, whatever it may be, although he can be fooled into doing so. Garrosh's psychology may be the most interesting part of his character. The young Hellscream grew up in the shadow of his father Grommash, living in shame for the fault his progenitor had committed against the Orcish race, and becoming apathetic because of his fear of becoming the same monster. When Thrall informed Garrosh of Grom's eventual fate and redemption, the orc was filled with pride, and his weak ego shielded itself in enormous pride, making him a warmonger wishing to bring total war to the Alliance. Everything Garrosh does, he dares to gain the approval of the father figure to compensate his feeling of abandon, whether it is the honor he sometimes demonstrates, mostly to feel better about himself and impress Thrall, which works and prevents him from understanding what Garrosh was going to turn into, or the aggressive savagery he shows to emulate his bloodthirsty father, notably deciding to take up residence as warchief in Grommash Hold and wearing the tusks of Manoroth as if he had been the one to actually slay the Pit Lord. His extreme aggressivity is a permanent attempt to vanquish his own fears and self-doubt, and he will tend to listen to anyone feeling these fears and pride of him, like Malkorok and Yesh-Raj did. It can be noted that Garrosh becomes completely unhinged if anyone criticizes his father, which we can see when he defies Thrall and Magora on an angered whim, or charges and Talonzo in the Vale of Eternal Blossoms. He basically resents the entire world for not feeling acknowledged, which is the basis for his xenophobia, his aggressive behavior, and his constant quest for domination or revenge. As he was never corrupted by any exterior influence, Garrosh's madness is his own, making him not a being of pure evil, but a normal person turned neurotic because of his father's abandonment and the expectations role and the hold rested upon his shoulders when he was anything but ready. For this last round, the outcome is rather obvious. Grommash and Garrosh both have psychological deficiencies, but Garrosh has much more issues than his father and is much more likely to lose his cool until the battle. The turning point of this battle comes with the fact that Grommash's shadow is everything that made Garrosh the orc he is, and being directly confronted to his father would be an extremely confusing and stressing experience for him, leaving him completely lost psychologically. Something that will not happen to Grom, despite his likely risk of being troubled by a meeting with his forsaken son. The psychological edge goes to Grommash Hellscream. The encounter would be difficult to imagine, given the timeline, but it will most likely occur in the Warsong part of Ashenvale Forest, maybe in the Warsong Gulch, where Grommash and Garrosh would meet about the leadership of the Horde and the Warsong Clan. Garrosh would have the heart at his disposal and bring Sadato, and the pool of demon blood would still be available in some part of the forest, not too far away from the battlefield. Maybe a fight would not be the original point of the fateful meeting. Garrosh would probably be anxious to see his father again and present him with the level of power he managed to achieve, while Grom would not really know how to think and feel about this powerful son of his, the one he abandoned in a whole other life in Draenor, one he probably thought dead. Both would approach on horseback, Grom being accompanied by the Warsong Clan, and Garrosh by his faithful followers from the true Horde, maybe some Warsong Outriders. Both orcs would dismount at the edge of their encampments and walk alone into the battlefield. Garrosh would start showcasing his power, anxious to impress Grom, but the latter would be disgusted with Xalato and the true Horde his son had forged, straying much too far away from Thrall's vision. He would not be devoid of affection for Garrosh, but someone like Grommash would not know how to express it. This would be a cold shower for Garrosh, a stab to the gut. All his efforts, all his sacrifices amounted to nothing but disappointing his father. The war chief would start raving about how he had achieved what no orc had ever done before, but how what he did was for the Horde, and ultimately he would confess that all he did was for Grommash, laying his heart entirely bare. At this point, Grom could have had a chance to bring Garrosh to the path of redemption, but talking is not exactly the warrior's strong point, and he would merely ask his son what the hell he was talking about, stating he never wanted any of his rotten power, but Garrosh did exactly the same mistake he had. Garrosh would completely lose it and start yelling, angrily charging at his father while swallowing his inner pain. Gohal and Xalato would clash instantly, Grommash not being about to lose his battle focus because of this, and the battle would begin with a flurry of wide, furious attacks from Garrosh, but Grom would have no trouble avoiding or parrying, using his speed to dominate the clash without harming his son, although he would grow more than irritated. At this point, he might yell at his son to stop behaving like a fool, which would only be answered by Garrosh repeatedly screaming at him to shut up. "As you wish," would reply a pissed off Grommash, and the actual combat could ensue. The father would be clearly superior to his son, effortlessly avoiding Garrosh's attacks and striking heavily with Gohal, expecting to end it quickly. However, he would be surprised by Garrosh's resistance, the young Hellscream's fury filling him further with Yasharaj's power, and the few direct clashes between Gohal and Sadato would demonstrate Garrosh's strength to Grom, who would understand just how dangerous his son had become. Stepping up his game, the Warsong chieftain would go at full speed, appearing in multiple places at the same time to confuse his opponent and defeat him with swift strikes rather than with a clash of raw power Grom would know he'd lose. Assaulted and wounded from multiple sides, Garrosh's battle instinct would kick in and restore his usual combat smarts, leading him to use his Bladestorm ability to easily slash through the fake Groms and end his move by hurling Sadato directly at his father. Grommash would have trouble parrying the Dark Blade's power, but would manage so, only to be furiously assaulted by Garrosh's fists, who would connect despite Grom's superior speed. A very physical fight would follow, as Garrosh would try to wrestle Gohal away from its wielder while pummeling his father's face. Grommash relies a lot on Gohal and will not let himself be disarmed so easily. The two orcs would struggle on the ground, the father trying to get his hold back on his weapon, and the son trying to prevent him from doing that while attempting to strangle him. Garrosh would not have much success in such circumstances, and Grom would be confident he could win the struggle, but the Magar's increasing strength would put pressure on him, and eventually, he would realize the trap set by Garrosh. The power of Xalato, with a secreted weapon, would start waves of dark, sharp energy around itself, killing plain cloth around it, slowly hacking at Grom's mind, something he would understand once it started feeling serious mental pain and hearing the whispers. Grommash would likely be infuriated by this, and would viciously bite Garrosh's fist, not paying attention to his broken teeth, using his son's scream to quickly snatch Garrosh from his grasp and punch him away, while Grom would quickly rise on his feet. Garrosh would get Xalato back and smile cruelly, knowing how bad the dark weapon must be affecting his opponent. Grommash would understand the frailty of his position and charge at Garrosh with the full intention to kill, being unknowingly affected by Xalato's whispers. This time, Garrosh would face the full force of the Blade Master's fury, struggling to keep up in terms of speed, but ultimately finding the dark pleasure in remaining on the defensive and just letting Yasharaj's shadow damage do the work while making him stronger and stronger. At this point, Grom might land a few blows, but Garrosh's defensive tactic and the fact that Xalato is made to be sturdier than Garrosh would be enough to protect him effectively, even if Grom's anger makes his attacks even more dangerous than before. At this point, Grom is at a bad position. Against an opponent who can damage him without lowering his defenses and getting more powerful by the second, and Garrosh has the decisive advantage, leaving him able, if patient enough, to easily seal his father's fate. However, patience is the least of Garrosh's qualities, especially in such a situation, and I think he'd want to use his full power to finally prove himself stronger than the father he both loved and hated. He would start communing with the heart of Yashraj, rising up in the air and giving access to the spiritual realm to Grom, where he would witness the increasing power of his son and be attacked by shy emanations of fear, doubt and despair. Grom would first strike at his seemingly open son and understand his current invulnerability. He'd then turn his attention to the shy spirits and start hacking at them, not knowing this is not the best course of action against such enemies. The creatures would pose a serious threat to him, one he wouldn't understand, and his mind would end up completely disturbed, consumed by his fear, self-doubt and despair under the fate he has condemned the orcs to. Under such dire stress and circumstances, Grom would falter and end up relying on a bad, very bad solution as the dark spirits keep attacking him. Free from any of Garrosh's assault, since the latter is busy being imbued by the old god, Grom would turn back and run away to his Warsong encampment, not in an attempt to flee the fight, but to get to the fountain of demon blood he knows rests in Ashenvale, full of a fiery temptation. His mind weakened, the Blade Master will make his tragic mistake again, and gorge himself with more of his blood while Garrosh slowly reaches his full power, with the heart safe in his encampment to empower him from afar. Separated, both Hellscreams will be twisting and howling in their respective torments as Grom's skin turns blood red and hot vapors start fuming from his maw and entire body. The father's transformation would end sooner than the son's, and the now fell orc would run back to the battle, hungry for blood. Barely paying attention to them, Grom would hack and slash through the shy emanations and leap to a now unprotected Garrosh, striking his son with the full force of his demonic might. The Magar would be propelled away, but would land on his feet more surprised than wounded, not quite at full power yet. Seeing a red Grom advance with a dark grin, Garrosh found an actual resolve to end his father's life, deciding Grom is unredeemable after all, and that it doesn't need the approval of such a betrayer. Both orcs would shout at each other, striking with horribly powerful attacks, but while Garrosh would be focused on killing his father, Grom would have witnessed the flux of Yasharaj's energy and understood where the source of his son's power was, the horde encampment at the other side of Warsong Gulch. At the first occasion he would get, Grom would grab Xalato's hilt without a shred of fear while Garrosh hits, and use his son's own strength to throw him over his shoulder and dash towards the heart. Some Korkron might try to stop Grommash as Garrosh pushes him, but the few who would attempt so would be easily struck aside by the Blade Master, whose speed will allow him to reach the heart before Garrosh and slash it in two gory pieces, before being bathed in unholy energies. Linked to Yasharaj's spirit, Garrosh would howl in pain and rescue what would be left of the old god's power by absorbing it entirely, incorporating Sarato to his own body, becoming the hulking avatar of Yasharaj while smashing the walls of the Warsong Outrider's encampment. Most orcs would be too afraid to intervene, but Grommash would only laugh, relishing the prospect of an epic end to their duel. The Blade Master would charge at his monstrous enemy, who would grab a nearby tree trunk and start smashing at Grom with it. The fell orc would need all the speed and instinct he could muster to avoid every attack, knowing any hit could mean a crushing death. With his newfound strength, Grommash could actually deviate such attacks, setting the tree ablaze with a trail of chaos flames running from Gorhowl's tip. A very dangerous battle of agility would ensue, each warrior trying to end his opponent with a fateful blow, and both failing, while Garrosh crushes the encampment and Grom sets the ruins of Fenfire. Blade Master's agility and Garrosh's massive size would probably lead to Grommash managing to cut through chunks of corrupted organic matter, making Garrosh scream in pain, but not stopping his rampage. Grom would understand his still precarious position, and his now cruel mind would find an insidious way of changing his attack. He would start talking to Garrosh, telling him how monstrous he looks, how weak he must have been to have to use such an ugly power to be worth something. The war chief would lose any intelligence left and smash stupidly without thinking, leaving himself far too open, exactly what Grommash had hoped for. The fell orc would use this created occasion to dash around Garrosh's trunk and bury his axe in a mix of orcish and old god flesh. An otherworldly howl would emerge from Garrosh's maw, as he feels more physical and emotional pain than he ever has or ever will, a pain that feeds Yasharaj. The orc's body would get covered in dark organic matter before his father's eyes, transforming even further than anything we can witness in the game. But before a full avatar of a dead god could take form, Grommash would strike with full force, plunging Gorhowl into yet another godly being, fully destroying the last remnants of its power. All that would be left in the burned-down battlefield would be a vanquished Garrosh, his sword falling from his shoulders, raising his head to see the horrific grin of his father. Devastated, the young orc would try appealing to his father, but would not even be able to finish his sentence, as Grommash would crush Garrosh's jaw under his iron boot before burying Gorhowl in his skull without a second thought. Grom would then turn back at the frightened Corcron, while his Warsong Clan, now red just like him, charges behind in the background. Grommash would celebrate his victory by beginning the slaughter of his son's minions, while the fell orcs trample Garrosh's forgotten body. Phew, what a battle! Just like the previous video, the matchup was pretty close, as Grom and Garrosh's strengths and weaknesses are quite similar, but despite heavy differences in some areas. I believe that, once again, the loser was really the more powerful one. Even while transformed into a fell orc, Grommash would have been no match for the full power of the Heart of Yasharaj, something Garrosh was assuming too, which led him to be overconfident. However, the main factor in this fight was definitely the character's psychology, as meeting with his father was bound to deeply disturb Garrosh and send him into a frenzy, taking unnecessary risks all the way, which proved too big a flaw against a fighter on Grom's level. Had this side of the battle not been considered, this would have been a clear win for Garrosh, but then again, it is a constant of his character that his psychological state is what made him the monster he became, while he could have become one of the greatest heroes of the Horde, the one Thrall wished him to be. Furthermore, Grom's coolest attribute is precisely his ability to risk it all in order to slay an opponent that is much more powerful than him, and Gorhowl is the perfect tool for the job. The winner is Grommash Hellscream, chieftain of the Warsong Clan and redeemer of the orcs. As usual, thanks everyone for watching. These videos are being quite long, but what's not to like about more Warcraft, huh? Don't hesitate to criticize me in the comments. I'm interested in any opinion concerning the fight or future videos on the channel, or anything you might suggest really. The next episode will be a Death Knight battle, with a duel between Arthas Menethil and Teron Gorthin, the first of their respective orders, and I think it should prove quite interesting. Even if this Hellscream duel was full of good old emotional depth, apparently that kind of thing still exists in gaming. Like if you want any more of that, and subscribe if you want to hear about this new fight. This is Ali from WoW Versus, signing out.